Hello, this is Talking Europe on France 24. Our guest today, the Foreign Minister of Spain, José Manuel Alvarez. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, just to explain to our viewers, you may remember, in fact, that along with Italy, Spain suffered one of the worst outbreaks of the coronavirus at the start of the pandemic back in 2020. Today, though, it has one of the highest vaccination rates in Europe. The EU's fourth biggest economy, also set to be one of the biggest recipients of EU recovery funds, which is now starting to be spent. So, José Manuel Alvarez, I'd like to start with the coronavirus pandemic. Almost 80% of eligible people in Spain now vaccinated against COVID-19, 100% of seniors. Now, the president of the Spanish Vaccinology Association, though, he said recently, the virus is here to stay. We have to get used to living with it. Is that also your government's view?
The government, at any rate, we are ready. For whatever might happen with the virus. We are going to be protecting our people as long as it's needed, whether it's for this pandemic or for the other. For instance, we are going to take full availability of the possibility given by the European Authority of giving a third booster for our population, and we are also going to take care of kids confronting COVID. So right now, with all the figures that you just said, 80% of our population more or less with full vaccination, we are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we are not relaxing at all. We will continue the effort.
Indeed, the European Medicines Agency just this week authorised a third Pfizer vaccine dose for all people over 18. There is some debate, though, around the world and among scientists particularly about whether this is fair and whether this is wise, indeed, for the pandemic, when so many lower income countries in the world, particularly Africa, are so far from anything like Spain's 80% vaccination rate.
Both things are compatible. The Spanish government is proving it. We have one of the highest rate of vaccination in the world. We are always, whatever statistic you take, we are among the 5 first countries in vaccination. And at the same time, we are donating millions of vaccines to different countries in the world, very especially in Latin America. In Latin America, it has been already close to 50 million vaccinations.
So it's more about donations. What about the idea of loosening up the laws around intellectual property? A majority of members of the European Parliament voted recently in favour of temporarily changing the intellectual property laws on patents and things so that these vaccines can be produced elsewhere, in fact.
Why not? I mean, one thing is clear. We must all understand that no one is safe until everybody is safe. Therefore, vaccinating someone in Africa, vaccinating in Latin America is protecting our own people. Maybe the waiver on the rights, it's going to take too long, where donation is the fastest way. Spain is fully into the COVAX system and also in bilateral donation. We will continue that path.
All right. Here in France, a dispute with Britain over post-Brexit fishing licences for UK waters has been heating up in recent days and weeks. And of course, there are Spanish fleets that fish in British waters as well. So I wanted to talk to you about that. The British government has given out just a handful of licences to the French applicants. Now, on Tuesday of this week, France's Prime Minister told lawmakers in the National Assembly here in Paris that the UK is not respecting its commitments under the Brexit deal signed with the EU, of course. He wants stronger action from the rest of the European Union. Does Spain support France on this?
What we want is the closest possible agreement with the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has decided to leave the European Union. That's a decision that goes back to the British people. From there on, we want that close relation. We have been very close. We have one of the highest population of Britain in Europe today, but we will also want total European Union solidarity. And what's clear is if the United Kingdom wants a good relation with the European Union, we will have to comply with European standards and try to make life as easy as possible for the people that were dealing with the United Kingdom before, therefore with the fisheries.
And, well, there has been the French Seas Minister has talked about switching off the power supply to the Channel Islands, which are a UK crown dependency, of course. What kind of action would you support the EU taking?
We support dialogue, we support a good agreement, and we support to keep things down. Let's see where we can go. And of course, the Brexit negotiation has had peaks, and then it has gone down. We are going to defend, of course, European Union interest, but also we will be in favor of dialogue.
Just another Brexit-related issue. The European Council this week gave the green light for post-Brexit talks between the Commission and the British government on the future EU relationship with Gibraltar. Now, the British government has expressed concern in the recent past that your government may try to challenge the UK's sovereignty in Gibraltar, this based on earlier draft negotiation documents. Are they right to be concerned about that?
Well, on sovereignty, as you know very well, there is a dispute. I don't have to explain it. It's very clear. My first trip as a foreign affairs minister was to London, right the day after that mandate of the Commission was issued. I was talking with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the United Kingdom, Dominic Raab at that time, and I was very clear. What we want is an area of common prosperity between Gibraltar and the rest of that region. And what we want is Frontex cooperating with us on the field.
The EU border agency.
Absolutely.
And does Spain have any designs on the sovereignty of Gibraltar?
What we want is that zone of that region of common prosperity. If we are aiming together on that goal, we will reach to a good agreement. The Commission mandate, it's there, it's issued, and we expect United Kingdom to sit down and to start to talk.
Okay. Now, you took over your job in the summer when your predecessor as Spanish foreign minister was fired, essentially after she sparked a diplomatic row with Morocco. Just to explain for our viewers, this was when the former foreign minister was in the spotlight for allowing the leader of the Polisario Front from the disputed Western Sahara to stay in Spain for hospital treatment for a month. Now, José Manuel Alvarez, your predecessor Arantxa González Laya told a court this week that Brahim Ghali entered Spain legally. I know, of course, the court will follow its due process. Do you regret Arantxa González Laya's handling of this incident?
The government always respects the law. I'm totally confident that this time the government did it as well. What's very important, Morocco, it's a very important country, a friend of Spain, and the relationship that we want, both of us, and the King of Morocco, in his speech, August 21st, he stated very clearly what we want: confidence, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. That's exactly what Spain wants. So we are in the good path.
Well, indeed, there was a diplomatic crisis that peaked when Morocco allowed more than 10,000 migrants to surge into a Spanish enclave in North Africa, Ceuta. This was seen as being a punitive move by Morocco. Are those relations with Morocco now normalised?
All the signs that I'm getting are that we are on the good path, not only of normalizing, but of creating an even more solid relation between two neighboring countries that share the Mediterranean, and that we want the same thing: confidence, mutual respect, and mutual benefit.
Okay, another news item from earlier this week when we had a court in Italy that suspended the extradition case of the exiled Catalan independence leader Carles Puigdemont. Spain's Supreme Court had requested the extradition so that he could face charges of sedition relating to an unauthorised referendum on Catalan independence. That was back in 2017. What's your government's reaction to this decision by the Italian government to suspend these extradition proceedings?
Spanish government doesn't comment in judicial decision. We don't comment those that we like, and we don't comment those that don't like. What's important is to focus in the agenda that the government has right now with Catalonia, which is an agenda of dialogue. It's an agenda of looking towards the future and addressing the real needs of people: economic recovery and fighting against COVID.
Mr. Puigdemont, though, says Spain has used judicial power to achieve political goals. He wants his extradition proceedings cancelled. Is that a possibility?
As I told you before, two things. The Spanish government, we always respect any judicial decision. But in Spain, no one is above the law.
Okay, we've just got time to talk about defence in the European Union. France and Greece recently announced a military pact. As you know, it means that France would come to Greece's military aid if requested, and Greece were under threat. And Greece would reciprocate by helping France in sub-Saharan African military operations with France. Now, this has ignited some tensions with Turkey. Does Spain support France?
That European countries make agreements on defense together, it's something normal. For instance, France, Germany, and us, Spain, we are together in this industrial program for a future combat aeroplane, the FCAS.
That's more about procurement, though, of equipment, rather than this is almost a mutual defence pact. Similar to what exists under NATO.
So we must not be too much upset with things like this. This is something normal. We are talking about Europeans. What's important is that any initiative we take, it's compatible with our allies, our commitments in NATO. We believe firmly in autonomous strategy of European Union, but we believe that this is compatible with NATO. Whatever we do, us or our allies, we think that both things must go together.
And just speaking about Mr. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, he's warned Greece that he sees this as a provocation. He says it won't go unanswered. Do you see that as a serious threat of actual military action by Turkey?
We must try to get our allies together and to appeasement, not to inflammate. So we think that NATO, in and within NATO, we can work, all allies. And we have sufficient threats outside NATO as to look for them inside NATO. We will always be, Spain will always be on the side of those that will bring friends and allies closer together.
José Manuel Alvarez, thank you very much for being on Talking Europe.
Thank you.
And thanks to you as well. Hope you stay with us. Plenty more defence questions, in fact, coming up in part 2 of the programme in a couple of minutes' time.